not see them, they're forgotten, as it were, make them invisible. You go to a restaurant, and if you're served by certain people or anybody, sometimes the goal is you never see them, never notice them, sort of thing. But there's a level of problem with that, of not seeing these people. And so I go out, you're saying as an African American, you're like, how am I making these people feel uncomfortable? And eventually you say, forget it. I go the opposite way. I'm saying, I know I'm a white male, and therefore I know I'm in a privileged position. How can I make everyone else around me feel comfortable around me? So I go out of my way to get to know everybody and make them feel comfortable to where they can knock on the door, walk in and give me a hug because they haven't seen me in a little while and get caught up. And so that's sort of my goal, knowing my privileged position. I think it's part of my responsibility in a privileged position to do that, to help represent that and to make people feel comfortable and not just walk around with that presumption on me.
So where I'm saying to the point where I want to be left alone and just blend in, you're saying that from your perspective, it's almost like you feel that you should make your space more comfortable. And so it's like we're doing the opposite things. And so maybe I came in, I wonder if I've ever come into a room with you where I just wanted to be like, just don't say anything to me. Just leave me alone. I'm just another face in the crowd. And Dr. Butler is like, hey, Ben, hey, how's it going, man? That, trying to make me feel comfortable. You think I'm sure at some point there's been a clashing of competing desires to just exist. That's what I think I'm saying.
Well, let's go back to the dinner conversation way back when. It wasn't an accident that, probably an accident we sat next to each other, unless you just thought, I was a great company person to chat with. But nevertheless, our conversation, some of the conversation stuff I wanted to have with you were because you have a unique position as an African-American male. As a white male, I don't. And some of these issues that I was passionate about, I thought you may be. The reality is you could have said, I don't give a crap about that stuff. I just want to be left alone. I don't want to talk about these issues.
I think it was more the Grand Marnier, the drinking that we were doing that night. But I didn't forget the conversation, obviously. 5 years later, I still remember the conversation. So.
Yeah, this is because I wasn't drinking and you were. That's why my memory of the conversation was much higher.
A little more accurate. Let's take a real I want to take a real quick break, Dr. Butler. When we come back, let's talk about some specific things. Let's hit on that McGraw-Hill book, and then I want you to close out just in general with the I want you to tell me the story, if you can, about the picture that you missed. And we don't have to. I don't remember mentioning that to you, but if you can, I want to talk about that. Folks, I still want to get your comments and questions. I see some comments coming in over Spreaker.com. You can leave comments at youtube.com, and you can call in 857-600-0518. We're going to take one more quick break, and we'll be back after this.
You're tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Join the conversation, 857-600-0518.
Looking for the right business opportunity? Need the right product, the right marketing plan, and the absolute best training in the world? Well, look no further. The Elite Team. Every leader in time excels. They believe the key ingredients in becoming successful in life and in business are just a keystroke away. Go to www.eliteteamsite.com. That's www.eliteteamsite.com. The Elite Team has a system in place that will move you closer to achieving your goals and dreams. Visit www.eliteteamsite.com or TonyFlemingEnterprises.com today.
College is important, but it can also be expensive. College Planning Services is a group of educators, administrators, counselors, and other licensed professionals that work together to provide the necessary services, networks, and information to reach students that are serious about getting a college education. College Planning Services partners with financial institutions, corporate sponsors, and other major players in the global market to strategize in building a pool of information regarding financial aid, scholarships, and funding information to assist students in preparing to access the essential resources to build upon their path to an educational future. Learn more at collegeplanningtoday.com and let us help you start your college career.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Ultimate Business Solutions provides the support you need to increase your customer base and sell more products and services online. Specializing in graphic arts, web development, and internet marketing, Ultimate Business Solutions creates the face of your business. If you're looking for a custom logo, dynamic website, or popping marketing material, call Ultimate Business Solutions today at 404-704-2197 or visit www.ultimatebizsolutions.com. Ultimate Business Solutions. Let us create your future.
Do you have tax issues, owe back taxes, or need tax relief? Contact L&B Tax Service today. L&B offers you over 15 years of expertise and first-class tax service for individuals, professionals, and business owners. With nationwide service, you can easily find a location near you. Contact one of our tax professionals through our website, lbtaxservice.com. That's www.lbtaxservice.com. L&B Tax Service Incorporated. Tax professionals that you can trust.
You've tuned in to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're still broadcasting this interview, and I'm thinking that what I'll start doing on occasion is on Thursdays, doing more interviews like this with different scholars, different leaders, thought leaders, and just changing the format on Thursday, particularly whenever that opportunity presents itself. But today I'm still speaking with Dr. David Butler. He has done extensive research on your particular research niche is on plantations, museums, and their place and their role in the South today in America. Is that right? What else is your area of expertise in terms of research? 1 second, Dr. Butler. Let's do this right here. And okay, now I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for unmuting me. Yeah, so the area of the expertise you're talking about is some research that's been going on for almost 20 years, looking at these plantation tourist sites, plantation museums. Some people call them museums, some people don't. But these plantations, several hundred of them, 500-600 in the United States, mostly in the U.S. South, where the plantations culture existed. And they're tourist sites. So basically you get to go, you pay a ticket, and you get to go walk through this big house and see period furniture and sometimes dressed up in costumes, sometimes not. Talk about the various furniture and the families and the houses, etc. And so those are the sites that I research and other members of my team research as well. And what we want to know is what's really going on. What stories are they telling? What narratives are they telling? What places and spaces are they showing? And in particular, where's the history? Where's the representation of the enslaved at these sites? And that's really what drew this beginning. So years ago, I went on one of these tours outside of New Orleans, and I was flabbergasted. I was insulted, almost got kicked off the tour because I kept asking questions such as, how many slaves were here? Where's the slave graveyard? Was there a breeding program? And I was so disruptive to their normal script, which had, insults such as, the servants did this, the housemaids did this. Never did they use the word slave or enslaved or anything else like that. I was outraged, and I couldn't hold my tongue anymore. So I had to speak up. And they tried to kick. I think they were close to kicking me off the tour. Got back to the rental car. I was fuming, and I decided I could either start a protest movement, or I could use my skill set as an academic and study this from a research point of view, which is what I did on the side when I was working on my dissertation. And so, 15, 20 years later, it's actually got legs of its own, multiple people studying this field. And so it's grown from a passion than everything else. And so that's basically where it started. And so looking at multiple sites and how this narrative has changed and where the representation of the enslaved are showing up or not showing up and why.
So, okay, so then let me dissect that a little bit, only as just a kind of a recap. In the impetus behind the research that you do was exactly what we've been talking about, almost the sanitized version of history, where they're not even referring to slaves as slaves; they're referring to them as handmaidens, or they're the help, or the servants. And so they completely sanitized it in a way that's palatable for marketing purposes, right? Where they can attract a lot of crowds and people can come and experience the glory days without the baggage that those so-called glory days carried. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah. So what you have is you have these sites emerging in the 1960s and 70s primarily. And so these weren't like homes that were open after the Civil War. It's like, hey, let's keep them open, from 1865 to present. No, these were all, most of them torn down or still being lived in, not doing very well. In the 60s and 70s, they started opening them as tours. And what happened was, it was Gone with the Wind, that movie Gone with the Wind, that struck the imagination of grandeur. I mean, everybody wants to be Scarlet. Everybody wants to have a Rhett Butler, not related at all to me. Everybody wants to have these folks and live that lifestyle of rich and famous. So instead of going through the Biltmore estate, now, hey, let's go through one of these houses. And what was being sold was this idea of opulence and grandeur. Here's how it was. And look at this big house. And look at all the crops they had. And look how much money. And look who they entertained. And look at their children. And look at their European heritage. And that is what they were selling. And look at the cool furniture they had. And their house in New Orleans, et cetera. So that is what was being sold on the tour. And the persons that were sold into slavery, brought across the middle passage, that survived, that were sold as slave markets, brought down, and then used as labor in the field, used in the house, used wherever their skill sets were to build this wealth, to build this opulence, were completely erased from the narrative. And that erasure is insidious. It's scary. It's just pretty bad. And so I've been examining the slow incorporation of the enslaved persons back into the narrative over time, as the baby boom generation that were targeted early on in the 60s and 70s for the Gone with the Wind generation, as they are exiting the tourism scene, the owners of these places go, oh, this old script just doesn't work anymore. What do we do? And so I'm learning, and my team is seeing that transformation as it's unfolding.
So now there's more of a desire to see a realistic, or at least a more realistic narrative or interpretation of what it actually was, versus the Scarlett O'Hara or what Gone with the Wind interpretation of slavery, where you see nothing but the opulence, but not the pain that was used to build the opulence. And so now you're saying that the visitors who are going, they want to see the real thing. They want to see, how did the slaves live? Where is the slave graveyard? Where is the whipping post? Where, all these types of things. How is that, one, how is that progressing? And then two, how is that registering in the white tourists that are coming? Are they the ones demanding this change? And if not, how are they affected by that change? What are some of the feedback that you're getting on that?
Sure. So there's multiple layers there. So let's walk through these piece by piece. So the first layer is, things are changing, but they're changing slowly. And they're changing not because usually the owners and operators of these sites are saying, you know what, it's time to change and tell a more complete story. What's happening is that the visitors, who are 97% white, they're going there, are saying, this old story just isn't resonating. And if someone along one of these pathways, so let's say a river road that has multiple of these plantations, one decides to incorporate more story of enslaved, a more balanced one, not complete by any measure, but more balanced and more inclusive, and their visitor count starts going up, the one that has the old story goes, we're losing out to them. What are they doing? Oh, they're doing that. Well, your choice is twofold. You can either adopt to the new trend, the new narrative, or you can slowly go out of business. And so I don't think there's a huge desire. There's not a political motivation. There's not a social motivation to tell a more complete story, but there is an economic motivation to move from the old story to a more nuanced story than they've had before, but knowing how far to push that story and to whom is really the challenge that I see unfolding right now. Who's pushing this? The visitors.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I was going to say, but even though